through because we learned all of that material in the Machaber already, and not yet in the Alter Rebbe. So I'm going to have to put you on mute unless you want to mute yourself, just because there's too much background. To mute yourself, then you can unmute yourself. Have a question, or you can write it down, or whatever you want. Okay. All right, we're about to start. We're in Alter Rebbe. Welcome back. We're in the Alter Rebbe, Siman Shin Yud Ches, 318, Sif Chaf Aleph.
That's what you sent us?
No, I just sent you a little handout with some notes on it. But you should have it and stuff I sent you ages ago. Alter Rebbe's 318. You should have it in one of my emails from many moons ago. Mechem Shapina Mimenu Mayim. You have it? You have it?
I'm listening to you.
Do a search for 318 in your email. You should come across it.
What's the name? It's 318.
318. Chaf Aleph, 21. Mechem Shapina Mimenu Mayim, Chamen, a kettle that you emptied of hot water. Aser litein l'sechei mayim tzoynin muatim. You're not allowed to put a small amount of cold water in it, which can heat up to the point of Yatzelet bay. But you are allowed to put a lot of cold water so that the total temperature will only be warm and not hot. And even though by putting cold water into the hot metal of the kettle, you're going to be strengthening that metal, because that's how you strengthen metal. You heat it up and then you cool it down quickly. And this is going to be a tikkun kli. This is the way of people who are iron and copper smiths. You found it?
I'm listening to you.
You didn't find it?
No.
Search for 318, you didn't find it?
I didn't come up with anything.
I don't know. They put hot metal, iron or copper, into cold water, in order for it to become hard and strong. This is the final work of the smiths. Surfing. I don't know how I translated it. Let me look at my Siman 318. I don't think smiths is the right translation. I think it's something more like
a blacksmith
or an artisan, because it means like they're shaping it. That's it.
To be tzoyrif is to purify. You know what I'm saying? A smith doesn't just purify; he also shapes it. But tzoyrif is a person who purifies. That's how you would define it. Just give me a second. Let me find it here. All right. Smith is a word, but there may be a better, more precise word. Let me see if I came up with it before. And I'm in 21. No, Smiths. All right. Okay, but now that I have it on my screen, I'll send it to you, Shmuel, right now. Anybody else want it? Oh, guess not. All right, it's on the way. Okay, let's continue. The heat expands the metal, the curved shower, and it's close to the breaking point. And then the water strengthens it because it contracts it once again. Okay, so that's the question. So why is it that you're allowed to add a lot of cold water to this very heated metal? And the answer is because it's not your intention. Your intention is to warm the water. It is not a psikareisha v'layamos. Who can translate psikareisha v'layamos?
If you do something, evidently it will happen.
Exactly, a definite result, even though it's unintended, a definite result. Why is it not? When they actually want to strengthen the keli, they heat it up very much. Over here, because it was a kettle that they were boiling water in, the water stopped it from getting too hot. Right? Whenever you boil water in metal, the heat is transferred through the metal into the water, which boils away at the point of 212. So the metal is never going to get higher than 212. Of course, the danger is when the water boils out and the metal gets hotter and hotter, that's when you can start a fire, chas v'shalom. But as long as there's water in it, it's never going to get higher than 212. So therefore, the idea that it's going to be strengthened is not necessarily going to happen. And now I'm going to share with you a famous Magid Mishnah, which I put into the notes that I sent out earlier. Some of these notes, by the way, that I sent out are relevant to stuff that we've learned in the past, but I never actually got around to sending it out, so I just put it out there. Okay, listen carefully. Magid Mishnah has a chiddush. Usually, when something is a psik reisha v'layamos, like we just said, when something is a definite result, the fact that you intended it or didn't intend it makes no difference. It's still going to be a violation, perhaps even a Torah violation. Magid Mishnah says, when it comes to strengthening metal, by heating it up and cooling it, we don't apply the rule that it's considered to be tikkun kli unless you had the intent. Even if it's for sure going to happen, if you didn't have the intent, he says it's not going to be considered tikkun kli. And the way they explain this is as follows. When it comes to a tikkun, that is not a very clear kind of tikkun. Maybe it's a tikkun, maybe it's not a tikkun. Thank you very much. So when it comes to that sort of thing, it depends on your intent. When you create something, if you would actually fashion a keli, if you would be creating a metal bowl or whatever it is, that's a tikkun. Whether you intended it or not, you have something usable. And even if you didn't intend it, if it's a psik reisha or whatever, that's going to be chayav. But when it is a kind of subtle change, right? It's not a very clear kind of change. So if it's intentional, then it's a tikkun kli. If it's not intentional, then it's not. We're learning the Alter Rebbe Chaf Aleph. Shin Yud Ches Chaf Aleph. Those notes are just to go with it, but I'm not learning from them. If you don't know Alter Rebbe, they may have one here on the shelf somewhere. Okay, so that's just something noteworthy, even though the Alter Rebbe doesn't bring down that Magid Mishnah, but it is a somewhat famous Magid Mishnah. It's good to know about. Okay, Chav Beis. Okay, so we have a lot of people online here. Feel free to ask questions.
Okay.
Quiet out there. Go ahead.
With the subtlety of putting water on a hot metal?
The
Does it
water is
matter?
not subtle.
What?
It's the strengthening of the metal that is subtle. It's not a very clear accomplishment. Go ahead.
Even if it's like, if it fills up the entire room with smoke and it has that big sizzle sound, that's also subtle?
It's not the action that's subtle. It's the change in the strength of the metal that's subtle. It's not very noticeable. You understand? What he's doing when he adds the water is not strengthening metal. Obviously, people don't strengthen metal in their kitchen kettles. It's just not what people do. People that are metal workers strengthen metal. People in their kitchens, they either boil water or they cool water or they heat water. Everybody knows that, right? But nevertheless, if it's happening, it's happening. So who cares what his intent is? So the Maggid Mishnah says, no, it's a subtle difference, which, because it's so subtle, it's only if you intend it that it's considered a tikkun. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
How does it go forward on Simon Chap, the amount of talking about? How do we know that creation Kishin is considered?
I'm sorry?
On Simon Chap,
What about it?
it's considered as creation of Kishin.
It is a klisheni, but l'chumra, we're considering it like a kli rishon. That's what he says. Because it's so hot. Okay. Chav beis. Mutter laris. Mayim tzoynenim. Afilu mu'at l'sach mayim chamin shayat zaleres boin shebek klisheni. You're allowed to pour cold water, even a small amount, into hot water that is yatzel is going to klisheni. I will learn to a chametz to a klirishin, not into a klirishin. That's in a room called kach. She after she is chamamu, yatzel is by. If the amount of cold water is so much that it's impossible for them to heat up the yatzel is by. Rak shiafigu tzinosam shin yurches chafes. Rak shiafigu tzinosam, just to remove their coldness. Mutter, it's allowed to fill kli rishon into a kli rishon. As long as it's not on the fire. Obviously, you could never put anything on the fire on Shabbos. That is mechzik mavashal, and of course, eventually it will also actually cook. So that's out of the question. But into a kli rishon, if you pour a lot of cold water at once, that is going to be allowed. Question?
Why is it a klisheni? Because we took it off the fire?
No. Klisheni is when you transfer the contents of the thing that you took off the fire into another utensil.
But we're talking about putting water back into the kli rishon. So why do we keep calling it a klisheni?
We're not calling it a klisheni. Klisheni is when you remove it from the kli rishon and put it into a second keli. Then it's a klisheni. As long as it's in the kli rishon, it is a kli rishon.
So you're not talking about the first pot?
The first pot is a kli rishon. As long as it's in the first pot, it's a kli rishon.
Isn't that what we're talking about then? I thought it's putting water in an empty pot. But
Read number 2, and then you'll know what we're talking about. And if you still have a question, then by all means, you can ask. Okay. When we learned this last week, we had a question. We said that a klisheni does not heat liquids, right? We said even though klisheni, you got it? Okay. Even though klisheni does heat some things, and we're strict, and so on and so forth, liquids it doesn't heat. So you can put anything you want into a klisheni. Any liquid, excuse me, into the klisheni. Question we asked is, if the definition of cooking a liquid is that it becomes yad seledes boy, so what do you mean there's no cooking liquids in the klisheni? You add a small amount, the total temperature is yad seledes boy, so you cooked. What do you mean there's no cooking?
What's up
There's
in
no
here?
cliche?
Right? What's up in here?
We asked this last week. So we said an answer, which is a doichak answer, but whatever. We said the Chidushim Aram Kozis says that it's not really, the cold water is not really Yatzalet Boy. It's just mixed, and it's impossible to find what's the one that's cold and what's the one that's hot. So when you measure it, you just get Yatzalet Boy. But really, the one that was cold before is still cold. The one that's hot is the one that's hot. It's just like a mix. Anyway, it's hard to explain that scientifically, but that was his vart.
It's the same halacha with the Ambatia, when you pour the hot to the cold water.
Badya, we said maybe he has a din of a kli rishon. Even if it's a kli sheni, maybe it has a din of a kli rishon.
For the
So
Ambatia Rishonah to Ambatia Shniya,
no,
you can pour from 1 to 1.
the ambatya itself is a kli rishon, even if it's a kli sheni. You didn't pour it from 1 to 1. You heated it up on the fire. You poured it into the ambatya to take your bath. But because it's so hot, it has a din of a kli rishon.
We don't allow to put tzonem. Only
Exactly.
only from this one to another Ambatia.
Exactly.
So is the same
Another
here?
example.
Is the same halacha about the water? Yes, it's
No, here it's not an ambatya.
Yeah,
It's just regular kli sheni. That's the question. That's the question. For the ambatya, it would be different. The problem is, I came across a psak of Rav Farkash today, which goes against this answer, and I haven't been able to figure out the lumdus behind it, the concept behind it. He says, even if you manage to heat up the water in a kli sheni to Yatzalet Boy, no matter what, it's not considered cooking. What's an example? He says if you take a kli, we're going to discuss it right now in Chav Gimel. You take a kli of cold water and you put it in a hot Yatzalet Boy. Okay, so it heats it up a little bit. Doesn't get right? It's a kli sheni. You put a cold tube of water into a kli sheni that's Yatzalet Boy. It's not going to get that hot. But then you switch the water with fresh water from a kli rishon, pour it into the kli sheni, and keep on switching.
The egg, you switch it.
Exactly.
And so the egg, you put, like I say,
Cold water.
milk of
Exactly.
the baby.
Exactly. So by an egg, we said, okay, egg is kalei bishul. Okay. But here it says clearly liquid is not kalei bishul. So it's allowed. But Rav Farkash says it's okay. Even if you do it and it becomes Yatzalet Boy, it's no problem. Now here it's not mixing because it's in a tube. So what's the pshat? If the definition of cooking is Yatzalet Boy, so you cooked.
So can you do it with intention?
He says you can.
And then what if I then put something inside the water to cook? If I pasta.
That's what I'm saying. If something cooks in the kli sheni, then you know it's a kalei bishul. It's something that's easy to cook. Because even though a kli sheni doesn't cook, but there are easy things to cook that it does. We don't know what they are. If you see that it does, now you know it's one of those things. But water, it says clearly, is not. So what's the pshat?
like the rabbi did the test about the egg.
Exactly. That's an example of kalei bishul. But water is not. So I don't know. It's a question.
It's not that ambition in general.
Why not? To heat water in water is not that ambition.
To warm up, it's not cooking.
If the definition of cooking for water is yatzaledes, then it's derech bishul. If that's what bishul means. Say. So the definition of cooking is not boiling for liquids. It's yatzaledes.
So I've done the question about kalei bishul. So the egg it does cooked, but we said kli shlishi, we don't pay attention to that. But basically kli shlishi like Ronnie say, it's also yatz already, but because we don't machmir it so far, and if we take an egg and we change the water from klish, we still cook it.
So sure. Anything that cooks makes no difference. Klishlishi, revi. If it cooks, it's kalei bishul, and that's it.
And we don't allow to do that.
No.
How do you know the egg is cooking?
We taste it.
I didn't know
You
the
were
egg-
not on my WhatsApp group. That's the problem. Now that you are,
No, what I'm saying.
you'll
is-
get it. I took a picture of an egg that I cooked in the klisheni, but mamish, it was more than soft boiled. It was 3/4 boiled.
What I'm saying, something that you can't see if it's cooking. How do we know it's cooking?
I'm talking about you see it. I'm not talking about you don't see it. When you see it, you taste it.
Yeah, but it's after
The
you
pasta,
break-
it's-
you can see the pasta getting soft. It goes from hard to soft.
I'm talking about soft. I'm talking about cooking. Softening is not cooking. When actually cooking, something that cold water cannot accomplish. Cold water can accomplish it, then it's not proof. You see what I'm saying? I'm sorry? Question?
Well, you're saying that it's cooked, but what's to say that it's actually cooked?
You can't see it. You can see the egg.
What does that mean? What's to say?
Like meat.
Well, maybe it's not halachically cooked.
The halacha is what what people considered cooked is what cooked. How do you define a Michael Ben Drusoy? Because Ben Drusoy will eat it. Well, who's Ben Drusoy anyway? He's just a bandit. Who cares about it? That's not the point. The point is if Ben Drusoy eats it, it means that some people, if they're desperate, will eat it. That's the definition of cooking. The fact that it prepares the food through heat for people to eat. That's what it is.
Is
So
a soft-boiled egg cooked? A 3-minute egg, is that
It's
cooked?
definitely cooked Michael Ben Drusoy. It's not fully cooked. That's why you cannot take a soft-boiled egg and put it in hot water till it becomes hard-boiled, because that's mavushal called sarkoi. But it is Michael Ben Drusoy, because some people like it that way. Some people eat it that way, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, this is just a question.
Your experiment showed that a klishlishi does that?
No, I did it in a klisheni. I don't know about a klishlishi.
Would you like me to find out?
You could find out if you like. Yeah, why not?
And if it appears cooked, what's the halachic ramification of that?
That just means that it's a kalei bishul that cooks in a klishlishi.
I thought that nothing can ever cook in a klishlishi.
No, that's incorrect. We debunked that myth a while ago.
Well, where we said that if it's really, really hot.
No, we said that you don't have to be choishesh. According to most poskim, you don't have to suspect that a klishlishi is going to cook something because it's so remote. But if you see that it actually cooks it, well, then it's obviously a kalei bishul, and it's a problem.
So it's fairly commonplace to make something like tea in a klishlishi.
Right, but there we said it's not so simple that it's considered that's cooking, because we said that even cold water will extract flavor from tea leaves. So therefore, it's not necessarily a function of cooking that extracts it.
I think I understand. But if we could demonstrate that an egg would cook, so if I take a hot water urn that most people use, I then pour it into a cup and then pour that into another cup. I've got a klishlishi.
Yeah.
If I put an egg in there and it cooks,
Yeah.
does that mean that I would have to assume that anything in there would cook, or
No,
only the egg cooked and maybe the tea doesn't?
exactly. It means that eggs are different.
I see.
Okay. Let's continue. Chav Gimel, 23 in the Alter Rebbe. It's very cozy in here today. Mutter lahamed kiten shamayim v'shal shamash k'mtzonim b'sech klisheni sheyesh b'mayim cham. You're allowed to put a flask of water or other liquids that are cold into a klisheni that has hot water. Listen very carefully to these parentheses.
So to come up with mutzak, so to actually something mutzak instead of the shame.
And therefore what?
Doesn't consider cooking, because you have the towel in between the two liquids.
Can't do it in a Kli Rishon. I'm just saying, obviously it can cook through the walls because Kli Rishon is awesome. But Kli Sheni is not hot enough to cook it, so that's why it's allowed. Those the walls themselves don't block the cooking. It's the fact that it's a Kli Sheni that makes it allowed. Question? No. He's going to spell out Kli Rishon in a minute. Listen very carefully to these parentheses. ואפילו להטמילי כולוי בסויכה שמוטלת מססטוינים בדבר של מסוים כמו שסבור בסמי זין. ואחר מני נקרא דבר של מסוים כמו שסבור בסמי חס. You have a flask of cold water, or let's say a baby's bottle, and you want to warm it up. So you put it inside a warm
A bottle.
You take water from the urn, Kli Rishon, put it into the Kli Sheni, nice and hot, and you put the bottle into the Kli Sheni, and you want it to heat up. So as far as Bishul, Alter Rebbe said, no Bishul. Kli Sheni, liquids, no Bishul. What about Hatmana? You're insulating it. It's completely surrounded. And on Shabbos, you're insulating on Shabbos. What's going on? So the Alter Rebbe says, no, it's okay. Why? We're talking about full insulation, even full insulation over the whole thing.
Is it nothing to do with the baby? Because of
No, nothing with the baby. We're not giving you any special hatayim for the baby, if that's your question.
usually you do that with the bottle with the baby.
Yeah, that's an example, but that's not. I'm not talking about because it's a baby, the poor thing, it's hungry. We'll give it a heter. Not talking
Is the
about
bottle already insulating within itself? Then?
no.
It's not that extra layer over there isn't going to make a difference.
Which extra layer?
The bottle itself, isn't that going to keep it a little bit warmer? It's more like a little bit more of the
Everything that holds any liquid is obviously
insulated to some respect.
holding it. You know what I'm saying? What about your coffee cup? You need to drink it's not like you're in outer space, like the astronauts can just have water globules. You need something to hold it. That's not Atmana. Atmana is an addition to the keli that holds the food or the drink. You're insulating it in something else. See what I'm saying? It has to be something else, never the item itself. That's what the poskim say, putting something in the thermos is not Atmana, even though the thermos keeps it very hot, but it's only one kli. The insulation has to be in the kli that holds it, which is then put into something else. So, sorry. The Alter Rebbe says it's no problem. It's allowed. Why? Because mutter lahatmin esat soinen bedavar she'inim moisef hevel. What are you insulating here? You're insulating something cold. Something cold, there's no isser to insulate something cold. There's an isser to insulate something hot, not to insulate something cold. So what you're insulating is cold.
Yeah,
Now,
but you're warming it up.
okay, now, if you would warm it up in a way of moisef hevel, that would be a problem.
So can you put a hot tub?
One second, let me finish. If you would insulate it in a way that adds heat, that would be a problem.
How is that not the issue over here?
One second. However, here the Alter Rebbe says, because the Kli Sheni is off the fire, obviously, by definition, the Kli Sheni is off the fire. That's not called adding heat, because that heat is dissipating. The heat of a Kli Sheni is going down. So even though towards this soinen, it's adding heat, but essentially, it's not defined as something that adds heat, because essentially it's going down.
What if you slow the process instead by insulating?
Sorry?
So if you put a towel on your cholent pot after it's off the fire,
It's not heating it. Just
That's insulating something hot, and that's a problem on Shabbos. Here, you're insulating something cold. That's why it's not a problem.
So is this still insulating then, or not? Is it considered insulating? or is
Now,
it
Alter Rebbe, in this parentheses,
Yeah.
as opposed to elsewhere, in this parentheses, Alter Rebbe says it's not a forbidden insulation because you're insulating something cold and something that does not add heat. Now, this is what Alter Rebbe says here. The Mishnah Berurah in Reish Nun Ches 258, which is something we did not learn. The Mishnah Berurah says that when you do this, if the liquid is going to become hot, that's called adding heat. Even though even though it doesn't add, it's not something that adds heat to something hot, and it itself is going down, but if it's adding heat to something cold, that's called adding heat. Now the Alter Rebbe here does not pass on that way, but in the Mahadura Basra, in the later version of the Shulchan Aruch, which Alter Rebbe started to Rebbe never finished, he rules like that opinion of the Mishnah Berurah. It's based on Rabbeinu Yoina, one of the Rishonim, whatever, that if it adds heat to something cold, it's forbidden. But even so, that's only if it's completely surrounded. Completely means on top also. That means a baby's bottle, you usually don't insulate it on top. I mean, there's always some air on the top, so it's never going to cover, it's going to float. So it's never going to be insulated on the top. So practically, it's only going to be insulated on the side, not on the top, so it's okay. But if you would fill the bottle to the top, and then you would literally cover it with water, then it would be a problem according to the Alter Rebbe.
So is it Hatmana or is it not then?
According to the Alter Rebbe, in the final version,
It is.
it is.
Hatmana.
Yes. Okay. Ava b'Kli Rishon, however, in the Kli Rishon, we're continuing in Chav Gimel. Also la'amidoi, you're not allowed to put it. Afilu lahafetz inosu bavad. Sorry. Even if it's just to remove the coldness. Zeh Hashem yishkach, yishtah Hashem. It's exactly that you may forget it and leave it there. Until it's yatsa. Okay, this we mentioned last week. You can never put something in a situation that might lead to bishul. Excuse me, even if your intention is to remove it before that happens. Listen to this chiddush. Even if the ambati, the bath that you're heating it in, is not water heated by fire, but rather it's water heated by the natural heat of the earth, like the hot springs of Tveria, in which case this water is not tuldas ha'ur, it's called tuldas chama, in which case it would not be a Torah violation to heat it up. To heat up with this water. Tuldas chama is only forbidden because of tuldas ha'ur. Understand? If you would heat up with this water, you might heat up with water heated by fire. Nevertheless, the same rules apply. You cannot heat in it. You cannot even leave in it for a small amount of time because you may forget it and leave it in there. It's interesting to think. Why don't you say it's exer? Even if you heat it up there, it's only the Rabbanon, because it's not tuldas ha'ur, right? It could lead to it, but it's not. So then if you're planning to just put it in and take it out, before it reaches the Yatsa Letters Boy, it should be okay, because it's a double decree. No, we don't pass that. We are worried anyway. In some cases, we make a Xer, we find that some cases that are close to being an Aveira, the Chacham restrict about. All right.
Where's the minion?
Baruch Hashem. we continue and we say, Chav Dalet. We're in the Alter Rebbe Chav Dalet. Shin Yud Ches Chav Dalet. Mutter lit in Kinter Shema Mesher Mashkin Kena Wadur Lahafik Sinoch. Ubavad Sheyitneim Rochik Mehoish. Be'inyan She'inan Yichoil Lescham Bo'isei Mokim. Ad Sheteheh Yad Zel Eres Af Im Yasha Sham Zman Meruba. Let me use my translation here that I emailed out earlier. Much earlier. It is permissible to put a flask of water or other liquids opposite a fire to warm it a bit, as long as it is placed in an area that is distant enough so that it will not be heated to the point of yasa that is white, even after a long time. Avol also litnam samoch leish b'makom sheyichoy l'scham sham ad shetei atzlet is boy. Filanichem sham 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 was sham silas mulan also gzei sham yishkam yishu sham ad shetei atzlet is boy. It is forbidden, however, to put them in a place that is near the fire and could heat up to become yatzlet is boy, and even to leave it there for a short time to warm it a bit is forbidden. There's a decree lest someone forget and leave it there until it becomes yatzlet is boy. All of this is fairly self-explanatory. Yes? Mm-hmm. Just like we said, you can't put something in a kettle to warm it, even if you're not planning to leave it there to yatzlet is boy because you may forget. Same thing, opposite a fireplace. Now, avoid in pairs, a shad ram nachal and komash in chayim. Shav shein and tzichem bishal v'kamokum and spashal chayim v'fikos al nechon v'mak m'shchem and spashal im yashu shem ma beruba dahainu v'mak m'shchem l'scham at shetei atzlet is boy. The same applies to fruit or the foods which are edible raw. Even though these do not need to be cooked, nevertheless, if one cooks them, they are liable chayim. Therefore, it is forbidden to place them in a place where it can cook even after a long while, i.e. in a place where it can become yatzlet is boy, too hot to the touch. All right? Avol. Klod over. Shein ba mishum bishul. Water afil lar tichoy. Connect on the door. Kigoin tavshalach. Spashal called sarkoi. Then no ham yatzlet is boy. Oh yeah, filo in yatzlet is boy. Ela shalin stan legamri lefim minishas par lamayla. Shnagol alkob ze. Oh yeah, filo stan legamri lishu davar sham fiyot tzali and afiyot tzliach afiyot tzliach. And stan legamri minishas par lamayla. But anything that has no prohibition on it may be heated opposite the fire. For example, fully cooked liquid dish that is still hot or is not fully cooled off, right? If it is baked or roasted and dry, then it may be reheated even if it is completely cooked, as there's no afiyat tzliya after afiyat tzliya, even if it has cooled down completely as explained above. Okay, again, this is all stuff we've covered, and therefore I don't think I have to speak about it at length. Liquids that are still hot, you can put it opposite a fireplace. Why not? It's already cooked. Even if it is not still hot, like yatzlet is, but it's hot enough to serve your guests, Rama says, also, ein bishol acha bishol balach, if it's still a little bit hot. So that's also good. And then, of course, if it's a davar yavish, and it's already been cooked, I mean to say, in this case, baked, right? Because you're putting it opposite a fireplace, so you want it to be baked in order that it should not be an issue of further afiyah or tzliya. So you have a boreka, you have a challah, you have a matzah, whatever it is, you name it, something baked, or even a squash, a pumpkin, I don't know, a vegetable. Something that's dry and fully cooked. Baked, in the heat of the fire directly without liquids. You want to put it opposite a fireplace, it's okay. It's going to heat it up. So what? Ein bishal achar bishal. Ein afiyah achar afiyah. Ein tzliya achar tzliya. Okay, up until this point, we've only discussed the Isser of Bishul per se. We need to say if it's not cooked and you cook it, that's Bishul. Even if it was cooked, but if it's a liquid and it cooled down, that's Bishul. Now that we're talking about a case where there is no Bishul, either because it's a liquid that's still hot, or at least a little bit hot. The thing about a little bit hot is only according to the Ramah, right? Because according to the Mechaber, once it's not Yaselet boy, it's forbidden to reheat. But again, whether it's a liquid that's still hot, or a little bit hot, or a salad that's already been baked, and is therefore not a problem to reheat, all of these cases do not involve bishul. However, there could be other issues that are problematic. Like he says right now, אבל הצורך להרחיק קצס, כי ישלח השם ישכח שהוא שבס ויבוא לחדש בגחולם. אבל כשמסיך מועצת להרחיק קצס, יש לו בזה הקר וזיכרון, לא יבוא לחדש בגחולם. This is all permitted only opposite the fire, or near it, but it's forbidden on the fire, as you may forget that it's Shabbos, and he will stoke the coals. I did not do a good job translating, because to get 3 lines of Hebrew into less than 2 lines of English, obviously I didn't translate everything. So I'm going to have to read it to you in the Hebrew. I'm going to have to translate as I go in the Hebrew. Nevertheless, they only permitted this opposite the fire, but not on the fire itself or even next to it. Rather, you have to put it a little bit far away, because there is a suspicion that you may forget it there, and that you forget that it's Shabbos and stoke the coals. If we tell you to do it a little bit distant, you'll have a reminder and you will not stoke the coals. Okay, listen carefully. To heat something in a way that cooks it is Isser of Bishul. To heat something in a way that is not an Isser of Bishul, but in a place that is usually used for cooking, is a problem of mechzek and melashim, of looking like cooking, which is why you wouldn't want to heat it on a stove top and an oven and so on and so forth. What if it's not a normal place to cook, opposite a fireplace, maybe even hanging on top of the fireplace? There's a third issue, and that is Shema Yaveh Lachades B'Gecholim. You may stoke the coals. The fact that it's not cooking, and the fact that it doesn't look like cooking, doesn't mean that you're not going to be concerned that it's not heating up fast enough. And therefore you make stoke the coals to make that happen. So therefore, you cannot put it on top of the fireplace for sure. But not only that, but also not close to the fireplace. The fireplace is here. You cannot put it right here, because there's no separation, there's no reminder, right? There's no reminder to stop you. Just to show you,
This was cooked from.
no, it's fairly simple and straightforward. This is the fireplace, and this is the food that has already been cooked. Therefore, there's no cooking problem. It doesn't look like cooking either. One second. It doesn't look like cooking either, because nobody cooks by putting something opposite a fireplace. If it's right close to it, then you may forget and stoke the coals when you realize it's not happening fast enough. That's why you have to put it a little bit further out, just a little bit, to make a hecker, to make a reminder, just like you cover the flames in some cases. I mean, obviously you can't do that here, it's Shabbos already, but just like that's enough of a hecker, so too, just moving it a little bit further out, even though it's close enough to become Yasalita's boy, but it's still okay because it's already been cooked or whatever, that little bit simply reminds you not to stoke the coals.
Warm up your hands next to
You might cook your hands.
not hold your hands.
Unless they're wet. If they're dry, you can.
Even if it's getting so hot, you have to remove your hand. This means that
You're going to remove your hand when it gets too hot, so you're not going to cook your flesh Unless chas v'shalom, a person has a problem with their nerves and they can't tell that it's getting hot, then they're in big trouble anyway. But other than that, you're never going to cook your hands. Question?
Can you give an example of what you're talking about? Why someone would want to stoke the coals if it's already cooked?
Because he wants to warm it. Of course, it's cooked. He wants to warm it. He wants to serve hot schnitzel, not cold schnitzel. It's already been cooked, but he wants to serve it hot.
So it's cold to begin with.
Yes, but it's already been cooked, so there's no bishul. He's heating
Yavesh.
something that's already been cooked. It's yavesh, exactly.
And what we think it's going to get.
You can take it from the refrigerator.
I understand. I don't know it's cold.
Okay, my friends, that basically brings us up to date in the Alter Rebbe. And now we go back to the big Shulchan Aruch for Seif Tes Zayin. In the Mechaber, that's correct. Shulchan Aruch HaGadol. תן לי את זה. יש לי פה, ואין לי ספר. Okay. In order to understand this, I have to give you a brief intro that I put into the email document that I sent out earlier. And that is, it's in 11 to 14. Okay, listen carefully. The Gemara says, Ein meraskin es hasheleg le'es haborod lohoitzi mehen mayim. You're not allowed to squeeze snow or hail to make water. You're allowed to put it into a cup or a plate. Why can't you squeeze snow or hail?
Changing its form.
3 opinions, actually. One says Molid, that's Rashi. Rashi says it's like you're creating something new. You had a solid, and out of the solid, you're creating a liquid. It's interesting that in those, sorry, they didn't have freezers in those days. So it's not like it was ever a liquid. It fell to this earth as snow. I mean, of course, since the days of creation, it was once a liquid. But I'm saying as far as your interaction with it, it has always been a solid, whether it's hail or snow. And now you are going to be creating something new by making it into a liquid. That's issue number 1, which is how Rashi explains the Gemara. Now, let me ask you something. What is the issue of creating something new on Shabbos? Which one of the 39 malachas is that? Molid. Creating something new. Which one of the 39 malachas is that? Nice. It's a nice guess. Actually, the Mefarshim explain that it's none of them. It's an Issa D'Rabbanan because it is similar to all of them. All of the 39 malachas involve an act of creation, changing the item or the nature of the world in a way that there's something new formed. Whether it's plowing, whether it's planting, anything. It's always a significant change. So therefore it's usher not because it's similar to a particular malacha, but it's similar to the whole concept of malacha. Okay, that is the opinion of Rashi. Then we have the Rambam, and the Ran. And they say that it's a gzeira, it's a decree that a person may squeeze fruit to get liquid out of them. Again, if you would be allowed to squeeze snow and hail to make water, you may squeeze grapes and olives to make wine and oil, respectively. Because just like these things, the natural, normal way to consume grapes and olives is to make wine and oil out of them. So too, the normal way to consume snow and hail is to melt it and drink it. So it's similar in that right now it's a solid. It's normal to make it into a liquid and to drink it. So therefore, because they're similar, the Chachamim included that in the Gzeira of Mashkin Shazav, right? That you're not allowed to, before we get to Mashkin Shazav, they said you're not allowed to squeeze it because it could lead to improper squeezing.
Lemon. You're allowed to squeeze it over the salad.
Lemon, you're allowed to squeeze over the salad, yeah, because when it goes onto a solid to flavor the salad, sorry, it's considered to become part of the solid. So Al-Pi Halakha, it has the din of the solid.
Some people drinking that too.
What, they drink the salad dressing, you mean?
No, the lemon. They drink lemon.
Squeeze it into a liquid.
On Shabbat?
No, on salad. On salad.
Yeah, but they don't drink the salad dressing. I mean, I know some people that do drink salad dressing, but normal people don't drink salad
They
dressing.
make lemon juice. They say ketchup, but not on Shabbat.
No, I'm not talking about making lemon juice.
You're allowed to use it on salad.
You're allowed to do it on a salad. Lemon juice is a problem on Shabbat because you're creating a drink. When you do it on the salad, you're not creating a drink. You're dressing a salad.
What about you slice it and you just put it in there?
That's okay. That's okay. Because you're not doing it via dime. It goes out on its own.
Don't squeeze that.
Exactly. Sorry. It's the same thing with ice, by the way. You can put ice into a pitcher. On its own, it melts. Question? We're asking the Shalag, yeah?
Maybe the same concept. You're not allowed to do a rasa to vegetable also. Fruit that you can put with the water. If you cook, you're allowed. Let's say avocado. You don't have to smash the avocado. But
When
you're
you
allowed-
smash the avocado, you're not making it into liquid.
But you're not allowed to smash it because it's raw.
That's a separate issue. That's an issue of lush.
The potato from the toilet, you're allowed to smash it. So it's cooked.
Yeah, but there it's not becoming a liquid.
Yeah, but you can
It's just becoming a mush.
Why does it
It's not a
matter?
liquid. It's a mush. There's a separate issue. But there's an issue of lush. It's not an issue of,
What's that?
lush is to need. No, sorry. I'm getting mixed up. There it's an issue of, no. Not for me. Sprite?
Charcoal.
The issue over there is no,
Changing its shape or what?
no. Teuchen. Okay, but it's not about a liquid. It's about taking a thing that's one and breaking it up into small pieces. Yeah, but what's coming is a liquid. You're not getting small pieces. You're not getting small pieces. You're getting liquid. It's a different thing.
What I'm trying to understand something here. It's wrong with
If you
that.
have like a solid snow and you just smash it, it's going to become the main snow pieces. It's not going to come to a liquid right away.
Rabbi,
So what's your shaila? It should be tochen, is that what you're saying?
Tochen is melacha, right?
Actually, you can refreeze the snow back together by melting it together.
Rabbi.
I think it's more tochen because the snow is anyway small pieces. That's what snow is.
With the children, with the chametz.
Sorry?
I don't understand.
With the chametz, you're allowed to smash it.
I don't understand.
No, it's not tochen. It's for food. So you heat it with the plate. Tochen is different. Tochen is melacha, Rabbi, right? טוחן קמח, טוחן, זה מלאכה.
You got outer space.
וזה סמוש, זה לא טוחן.
Shmuel needs some company in outer space. Anybody?
Tochen is for food.
Sorry?
Isn't the Av Malacha for food, for making bread?
You said maybe.
Therefore what?
Didn't he say it shouldn't be, an avocado is different because it's food?
Ronnie was saying an avocado is, no, not avocado. That cooked stuff is different because it's cooked.
What's the difference? You eat it raw anyways.
You don't eat potatoes raw.
But you can eat a banana raw. And you can smash it just like an avocado. What's the difference?
First of all, it's not so simple. Chazon Ish says you cannot smash a banana. Or an avocado for that matter.
If you do it on Friday, by Saturday it will be black. It doesn't look good. For Shabbat, Tanuk Shabbat, where is?
Tanuk Shabbat is to keep Shabbat. That's the biggest Tanuk.
Yeah, but if you have the avocado and you smooch it on Friday, but by Saturday it's just put in the garbage, it's better.
I'm telling you the Chazon Ish. Some say it's not.
But what's
Rav Moshe
that?
holds it's not. Moshe holds it's not.
Put it in the refrigerator.
Also, if you cut apple also, you're allowed to cut apple on Shabbat?
Yes, you know the better. I don't
Yeah, you know. But,
know.
so you can, if you cut it on Friday, check the apple.
Cut enough. Except on Rosh Hashanah.
Okay, I can't find it. It says that by cooked foods there's no tochen. Does it say that somewhere?
But when it comes to cook,
I don't know. Anyway, what were we saying?
I don't know.
You're back? So what's going on?
We're talking about melting ice.
Melting ice. Okay. So reason number 2 for not melting ice is because you may squeeze fruit. And reason number 3, listen carefully. And this is from the Sefer HaTruma. Sefer HaTruma was written by Rav Baruch Migarmaiza, who was one of the Balei Tosfos, one of the authors of Tosfos. Garmaiza is worms, by the way, in case you want to know, in case you want to visit his hometown. It's Worms in Germany. Rav Baruch of Garmaiza says that it's an issue of noilad. What does noilad mean? Noilad is the verb, noilad is the noun. When something new has been created, it's called noilad. Meaning to say, the creation is a muktzah item because it's something new that didn't exist when Shabbos came in.
But isn't this the same as Rashi?
Oh, that's a good question. Is there a difference between Rashi and the Sefer Truma? The Sefer Truma says Noilid, and Rashi says Moilid. What's the difference? So it could be that he means the same as Rashi, except that he's talking about the Isser, even B'di'evet. Rashi's saying you can't do it, the action, because when you do it, you're creating. He's saying, not only can you not do it, but even after it's done, you can't benefit from it because it's something new. It's a muktzah item. You see what I'm saying?
But the water coming out of the ice, it's normal. But you're warming up the ice, or putting like something hot, you're supposed to be molded water from the ice.
Yeah, but it's from like it's the.
Therefore, what? And it's also,
No, this is why the difference between like mold is like the action that you're doing. Mold is the result is what's happening.
I understand. Noilid is after the fact. Moilid is when you're doing it. Yeah, you hear me? Daniel, you hear me?
But if it's us, so you can't benefit from it anyway, right?
Yeah, I'm here. So who was saying B'di'evet you can benefit from? That was Baruch?
No, Baruch of Germais is saying you cannot benefit. It's also even B'di'evet according to him.
Okay.
So Yosef is asking if it's an Isser, so you can't benefit from an Isser anyway. So what's the difference if it's Noilid? Why do you have to say it's Noilid? Even if it's just an Isser B'di'evet of Moilid. Asking.
Why don't we say creating?
You're not talking to him or to us.
Both. I'm repeating his question for everybody to hear. The way we explain that Baruch of Germais is saying that it's Noilad is B'di'evet because it's muktzah, it's something new. Moilid is what Rashi is saying is why it's also lechatchila, because you're creating something, right? So
The issue of the action himself is issue. Like Evanah from something, maybe it can be.
no, but that's his question. When something is aser, it's also about not do on Shabbos, and if you do an isser on Shabbos, sorry, so it's also to benefit from that isser.
But in this case, he did one action, and then after it's something else. He just put it closer to heat source.
Wow. That's already the next case. We didn't discuss
Based on
that.
intention.
We discussed crushing it.
It's like walking.
Putting it next to a heat source, when it happens on its own, that's already another chiddush, which we didn't discuss it. We will discuss it. But I'm saying we didn't discuss it yet. But even before we get to that, Yosef is asking a question. What do you need the issue of noiled, as in muktzah of noiled, which is like a special category? Why don't you just say he did an isser of moiled?
To show intention.
So b'di'evet, it's also because he did something forbidden.
To show intention.
I'm talking about he did it on purpose.
Yeah, but you have to show.
Actually, that's actually good. That is a good answer. Actually, that is a good answer. Shmuel is saying, if you did it without intention, so we're not going to make it also b'di'evet, because the whole thing of moiled is only isser rabbanan. When you do an isser rabbanan on Shabbos, b'shoigig, it's not also b'di'evet. But if you say it's noilad, as in muktzah of noilad, because it's a new thing, so then even if you didn't do it on purpose, even if you did it without even realizing that you did it, it should be also b'di'evet. So that's a chiddush. Got it? Yosef?
Yes, got it. I still don't get the difference between Molid and Molid. They're probably from the same malacha, right? Well, not the same malacha. They're probably from the same gezer derabanan, no?
No. Noilad is a geder in Hilchos Muktzah. If you learn Hilchos Muktzah, you'll see there are different types of Muktzah. There's Muktzah machmas chasar and kiss. There's a basis ledavar aser. There's Muktzah machmas mitzvah. There's Klisha Malachta Le'Isser, there's all kinds of things. And one of the categories is Noilad, a new thing that just came into the world on Shabbos. Special category of Muktzah.
Right, but one's the cause and one's the result.
You mentioned Tachan, I didn't mention Tachan at all. I'm sorry?
Like one's the cause and one's the result, right? The main case is, I guess, the Beis Shenola B'Yom Tov, right? It's usher because it's muksa, but it was also created on Yom Tov. That's why you can't touch it.
Okay, so normally when we talk about Noilad as muktzah, there is no isser to create muktzah. There's an isser to move muktzah, not to create muktzah. All right? When we talk about Moiled as an isser, we're talking about the forbidden action of creating. So there's two separate categories. There's the isser d'Rabbanan of creating, and then there's the muktzah, which is Noilad, which normally has nothing to do with how it was created. Just the fact that it's a created being makes it Noilad, makes it muktzah. You understand what I'm saying? So here, the Baruch of Gemaiza is focusing on the Noilad aspect. That doesn't explain why it's also to do in the first place. For that, you need Rashi's vort of Moilid. But to explain why it's Asr even b'diavad, even if you didn't do it in a way that would make it Asr b'diavad because of the Malacha itself, but it's still Noilid, it's something new.
Okay, I see. But the two can't be separated, right?
Yeah, they can. You need to say Rashi doesn't have to hold of Baruch of Gemaiza. Rashi could say it's also to do because it's like a creation. But that doesn't mean that it's Noilad because it's not enough of a new existence to say that it's Noilad. It's also to do it because when you do it mamish biyadayim, that looks like it's Moiled. But if it happens on its own, it's not so new that it's going to go into the category of Noilad.
So the knowledge we can get for example, let's say you have a bowl full of ice, for the ice. After all the ice, there's some liquid become muktzah, so it's the liquid is from the ice. You have to move this bowl out of the table.
So, there's a few answers I have to that question. But let's just say that I wouldn't have those answers. Let's say I would say that it's Noilad. If that water is Noilad, you can't move it.
Unless there's one more ice cube inside.
That lav dafka depends what's more important. If you have something that has no muktzah and non-muktzah, it's not so simple that you can move it. Not so simple. If you say it's Noilad, if you say it's Noilad.
The liquid come with the ice.
Yeah. If you say it's Noilad. So that's if you say it's Noilad. I'm just answering it according to your question. I'm sorry? No. Because we only paskin like a Baruch of Gemaiza lechatchila and not b'diavad. Ramah says that lechatchila we follow his opinion and we don't heat up ice to become liquid. But b'diavad, if it already happened,
You're not heating it.
I'm just saying we don't do it. We don't cause it to become liquid. That's his. First of all, the Mechaber says we don't even pass like that. The Mechaber says you can do it as long as you don't crush it with your hands. But according to the Ramah, he says, okay, you don't even take it out and put it near the fire or cause it to happen. But b'diavad, once it happened, he says you can rely on the other place, on the Ramban, Rash, the Ran, other person will say that it's okay b'diavad.
If you have a bottle of liquid in the freezer and it's strictly frozen, you have to take it out and let it frost and then use it.
Some say that's true. Not everybody. I'm going to get back to that in a minute. Some say that's true. Not everybody. But even those that say that would say, according to the Ramah, that b'di'evet, if you did it, you can drink it. Shouldn't have done it. It's not so nice, but the b'di'evet, it's okay.
Really should.
Some say.
Pointed out that it was
Not simple, without. It's not simple. I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you in a minute. Yeah.
They mentioned here about tochen, yud.
כן, אבל הוא אמר שאם זה מבושל, אז אין איסור תחינה. אני לא יודע אם זה נכון. הנה. Okay. So, okay, so before we get to answer that question about taking ice out of the fridge, I just want to address another question, which is a big subject of dispute between the Rishonim. Most Rishonim say that this Isser of Ein Raskenas HaSheleg is only biyadayim. It's forbidden to crush it in such a way that you create the water. But if you take it out and you put it you put it in the sun, you put it near the fire, you just you put it in a place that it's going to melt on its own, it's okay. Why? Because they say that Molid is only, let's discuss both reasons. We have the reason of Rashi of Molid, we have the reason of the Rambam and the Ran, that it's like squeezing fruit. So they say Molid is if you actually do it, then it's Molid. If it happens on its own, it doesn't look like you're creating it. You didn't create it, Hashem did it, so to speak. Or if you want to say that it's like Paris, that it's like fruit, so if you squeeze it, you're going to come to squeeze the fruit. But if you leave it out in the sun or in the fire, you're going to come to what? To what? What are you going to come to do to the fruit? I mean, it's not even shayach. It's not even a comparison.
That's why I say the other can say no.
Oh, 1 second. I didn't tell you the Sefer HaTruma yet. I didn't tell you the Sefer HaTruma. I told you the other Rishonim, most Rishonim. However, the Sefer HaTruma says, no, even if you did it by that way, without any action directly on your part, I mean, you did an action, you put it near the fire or whatever, put it in a hot place, but you didn't do it directly, it's still asur because it's noilad. Noilad. Now, there's actually two ways of learning pshat in this. Anyway, some say that you didn't do any isser, but it's noilad, it's muktzah, because it's something new. And some say no, the Sefer HaTruma holds that this too is called moilid, because even though you're not doing it mamish with your hands, but you're putting it in a place that it's going to happen. That's also called an act of creation. So that's the Sefer HaTruma. Yeah.
According to him, the first opinion according to him.
Yeah.
Then just touching ice with grabbing snow beans, because then the warmth of your hand is going to melt eventually.
So what they say is an interesting thing. It's a very interesting discussion, this whole thing, because it's a little bit like a subjective malacha. Normally we have malachas, we have strict definitions, we have measurements, and this is very subjective. Like, for example, it says, if you break the ice, like in Russia, you need to go to the mikveh, you need to break the ice. That's life. No? You need to go to the mikveh, it's frozen over. You take your ice pick, you break the ice to get into the mikveh. Never happened? Never happened to me either. But I know people that it happened to. Anyway, when you do that, some of the ice is going to become water. Small amount. I mean, it's so cold outside, it's not like it's hot, but the friction of breaking it is going to cause it to small amount to become water. So they say that small amount is not important. Meaning to say, what are we talking about over here? We're talking about Molid, to create something. Something small like that is not even noticed. It's not important. That's not Molid. In a sense, of the same thing with your touching the ice for a second. I mean, it's not going to be important. So now, in practice, the Machaber Paskins, like most Rishonim, who say there is no Isser unless you do it biyadayim. So according to those Rishonim, you can take ice and put it into a cup and it becomes water. Just borrow your water for a second. It becomes water, no problem. Say a bracha, enjoy. Why? It's not called an act of creation because you didn't do it biyadayim. It's not similar to squeezing fruit, no problem. However, the Rambam, sorry?
Ice is not the same thing?
No, I mean, the same din. Why not? Shelag v'habora, the Gemara says, snow and hail.
But you have to use a lot of energy to break ice.
Sorry?
What's that ice?
Hail is basically ice. Although in my explorations this afternoon, I did come across somebody that mentioned that the hail and the ice was always a solid. It was never a liquid in this world. I mean, in its previous reincarnation it was, but in this world now, in this appearance, it was always a solid. So to turn into a liquid is a significant change. Based on that, you could say, well, the ice in my freezer started off as a liquid. And then I put it in the ice cube tray, and I put it in the freezer, and then it became a solid. So maybe that, when I make it a liquid again, I'm just bringing it back to what it was all along. I'm not creating something new.
Then you're destroying
I'm just bringing it back to its original thing. So you could argue that, but the mice and the poskim don't differentiate. So, yeah. Okay, so the Ramah says no. The Ramah says the minhag is like the Sefer HaTruma. This is just an example of how the Ramah gives Tosfos' opinion like super authority. Because here there's so many Rishonim that disagree with the Sefer HaTruma, like basically all the major Rishonim, the Ramban and the Rambam and the Rashba and I don't remember who else, the Ritva, everybody. But Sefer HaTruma is like one of the major Balei Tosfos. That's it. That's the minhag. I don't think he says that's the halach. He says it's the minhag. It's the minhag. So Lemaisa, you should not do it according to the Ramah. Nevertheless, he does say that b'di'evet it's mutar. Meaning to say you shouldn't melt ice, even not squeezing it. Just putting it in a place where it's going to melt. But if you did it, you could drink it. You're not going to melt ice.
actively melt ice.
No. Putting it in a cup with liquid is okay according to all opinions because it never makes a separate new item. It goes directly into the cup of water. You understand? If there's water in the cup and you put it there, then it's for sure mutar because you never create a separate entity. It becomes right away part of something else. See, the Gemara actually itself says, "Aval noisan hu l'techa kois." It says, "Ein meraskin and sabarad, aval noisan hu l'techa kois." So the other Rishonim say it means you can't squeeze it, but you can put it into a cup, even an empty cup. Sefer Truma says, no, you can't squeeze it, and you can't put it into an empty cup. In parentheses, the Gemara doesn't say that, but that's self-understood. But noisan hu l'techa kois, you can put it into a full cup for it to melt into that water.
Does it have to be?
So I was under the impression that you are allowed to put ice into a dry bowl and bring it to the table for people to put in, as long as your intention is not to get the liquid out of it. Is that incorrect?
Incorrect. Yes.
I think I looked that up in Shmiras Shabbos Kel Chasa, but I could be wrong.
I hear the argument.
So you put a spoon in the holes. And you can't take the
But if
liquid.
it's a water on the bottom of the bowl,
Yeah, exactly.
I hear that argument too.
we don't.
Would you have to, if you put ice with ice with ice? It's not just one ice.
Sorry?
Can you put multiple ice together rather than just one ice?
How does that solve the problem?
Well, you said you can't put ice in a cup, but ice with ice, it's.
But when it melts, it's gonna be a new thing. It might melt slower, but it's still gonna melt.
How much water do you need in proportion to the ice? Doesn't matter. A drop is fine.
Yeah, as long as it's gonna noticeable amount. So when it melts, it doesn't look like something new. Shmiras Shabbos
Mainly
Kel
you're using
Chasa.
the ice to cool off whatever you have.
Yeah.
So what happens if you use one of these plastic ice cubes that have like a liquid inside, and you freeze it, and then you put that into your cup of liquid, but it never becomes part of the liquid. You see those things?
He's talking about like
It's a
whiskey
little-
cubes.
little cube, or whatever shape it is, and it has like a liquid inside it, and you freeze the whole thing. and then
No, because you don't want to dilute the taste of the whiskey or something.
Pardon me?
Because you don't want to dilute the taste of the whiskey. Is that what it is?
No, it's so you don't have to use dirty
What they don't
ice.
come up with.
That's better.
Actually, I'm looking at Shmiras Shabbos right now, which is where I would have looked at it before.
Yep.
There's one is not permitted to put ice into an empty cup with the object of drinking it when it is melted. And it says later on Shabbos and Yom Tov, in an empty cup with the object of letting it melt and using the water unless one would otherwise be inconvenienced. If one has broken the rule, then it is not forbidden to drink it. It is advisable not to use it if one has other water. So from that, I took that if your object is simply to bring ice to the table so people can put it into their cups, it's not an issue.
You know that's not a liquid, like more of a gel that they put in there.
Okay, I don't see it in the Shmiras Shabbos expressly.
Because water would evaporate.
You're saying it was your understanding, but I don't see it clearly here. So I'm just going to have to take the fifth on that one. I do hear the argument that if it's not your intention, it should be mutter.
And I imagine it's because you can't. The second you take ice out of the fridge, out of the freezer, it starts melting in your hand. So the melting isn't the problem. The only problem is the water resulting from that. It does actually mention that over here. It says, while one may even break up large blocks of ice for this purpose, it's advisable not to accelerate the melting of the ice inside the drink directly, for example, by pressing it with one's fingers or a spoon.
So you
Right.
just did it.
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the bit of information that I've been withholding from you all this time. But here it comes. This is an answer to your question, Ronnie, about this thing, about taking ice out and putting it on the table for the guests to have. And this is the chiddush that Rav Wozner says, and Rabbi Forkash paskins this way. It's a chiddush. I'm not going to deny that it's a chiddush, but Rabbi Forkash is not paskin against Alter Rebbe. He holds that you can understand this chiddush even according to Alter Rebbe. It's not in the Alter Rebbe, but anyway, it's how he paskins. He says the whole Easter is only if you do some kind of action to make it melt. But if it's gonna melt on its own, that's not called an Isser, even according to the Sefer HaTruma. Meaning to say, if you take the ice and you put it in the sun, okay, that's a problem according to the Sefer HaTruma. If you put it opposite the fire, if you put it near some kind of heat source, yeah. But if you just take it out of the freezer, I'm just telling you what he says. No, I'm telling you what he says. If you take it out of the freezer and you leave it at room temperature, that's not called doing an action. Why? I'm giving you the concept behind it, even though it's not the logic you could argue with, but this is his concept, that the freezer is like a superficial, artificial environment. It's not a normal thing. I mean, you created an environment in the freezer where it's artificially cold because of that environment. When you take it out, that's not called you're melting it. That's called you're taking it out of this artificial environment. You're putting it in a regular, normal environment.
There's no way to get it to state at the artificial environment.
Okay, I understand
He
that.
lives here and you're able to put it there extra cold. The only way for ice to be melted is to do that.
I understand. It became ice artificially, that's fine. But the fact that it's continuing to be ice is because of that external factor. So when you take away this external factor, so it's basically not considered like you are creating something. It's just like you're taking away the factor that kept it.
You're passively allowing it to happen.
Exactly. You're allowing it to nature to take its course.
What you're saying.
Whereas if you if you put it in a place that is warmer than room temperature, I don't know exactly how to classify it exactly, but if you put it opposite a fireplace or the sun or in a place that is more than room temperature, so you're doing something.
You're actively melting it.
Accelerating it, that's the problem. Rav Farkash actually passes this way. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, it's liquid.
Even Klisheni. Sorry? It's in the water. It's in the water. It's in the water.
Can you your main thing is
One second. I just want to point out there's a big chiddush. According to Farkash, you can take the bottle of frozen water, like people make, completely frozen, take it out, leave it on the counter, come back in a couple hours and enjoy.
Enjoy it.
It's a chiddush. I'm not saying it's not a chiddush, but it is a chiddush. That's his plug.
Rabbi, I got a question about those Italian ices.
One second.
Unfrozen water.
That also helps. That helps according to everybody. But I just want to address a question that Shmuel is asking, which is worthy of being addressed. If you have one of those pitchers that purifies the water, and by the way, not one that gives you the ones that have an electric thing that tells you how many, can use those obviously. And there's a new water bottle, you can buy it for only $200, by the way, that when you put water in it, let's say you're in the jungle or you're in China or even Mexico, and you don't know if the drinking water is safe. So you put it in you put it in, and it shows you a light if it's safe for drinking or not. And if it's not, you press a button, within 4 seconds, it filtrates the whole thing and makes it safe for drinking. In the coming world of use and beyond, it may be a good thing to have. Anyway, bottom line is, the Shmir Shabbos Kol Chassid says you can filter, you're allowed to filter water on Shabbos only if you sometimes drink water that's not filtered. If you're makbid to always drink filtered water, then you can't do it on Shabbos.
You didn't have water, would you drink from the tap?
No.
Then you can't do it on Shabbos.
You know what's in the water?
I'm telling you,
This is from the toilet.
This is a Shlem Zalman's psak, because the fact that you are makbid makes it boyer. If you're not makbid, it's not boyer. Because it's not important, you can't even see it. But if you're makbid, it makes it the boyer. That's why I go out of my way once in a while to have to drink
It's not
unfiltered
not
water.
because it's filtered, it's that I like cold water from the refrigerator. It's a different reason.
Okay,
Not
so
that I care
you
that
don't
it's
have to filter
filtered.
it. You don't have to filter it.
So I'm not.
If you're dafka filtering always, it's a problem on Shabbos.
What if the house has a filtration
Because
system?
one second, the fact that you only drink it filtered makes it a problem of boiler.
But we don't use a filtration system, but only on Shabbos. Meaning the refrigerator has the filter, it does, but we don't fill up that
I
thing.
understand,
only on Shabbos.
but whether on Shabbos or the week, if you are only always particular to filter, that means that those impurities bother you. And if they bother you, then when you filter it out, it's a problem of boiler. You've selected.
Aren't you taking the good out of
What
the bad?
about if you drink?
With a keli, can have to do with a keli.
That's the way it's.
Absolutely.
When I
Exactly.
drink coffee, I drink regular water. I mix it, I use the water from the sink.
Yeah, but it's boiled.
But it's boiled
It's
already,
boiled.
you know? It's-
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but that's
boiled,
not tap water. It's, you already.
it kills the
Yeah.
germs. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if it's natural, who knows? I mean, what's gonna happen? It's local.
No,
No, no.
I don't
boiling
think
it,
it's
once you get the
boiling, it
boil,
kills
no,
it.
no, no.
I know that it is 100%. It's not my question. The thing is, it's really kind of, to drink from the sink directly. It's good.
You don't have to. I didn't say you have
So
to.
you don't use a filter? Push button?
I do, because I drink from I dafka drink,
How often? How often? How often?
whatever.
Like once a week, like.
I don't remember.
Yeah, but you
But
probably
I'll
have-
drink from a water fountain.
But where you live, you
I'll
probably
drink.
have cleaner water than where I
Oh,
live.
drinking from a water fountain counts?
Why not?
Like someone.
Oh, yeah, I drink from the water
Sure,
fountain
around all the
20 times a
time.
It's
day.
not filtered.
It's cold, yeah.
It's not filtered.
So that's fine. I
Regular
drink-
water
All right,
fountain.
so you
100
got your
times a
head-
day.
You got your head there.
But I do it because it's cold water from the water.
Okay,
fountain.
but if it's not filtered, it means you're not makbid. Okay. Yes, Yosef, go ahead, your question.
Whenever-
Yeah, if you have a filtration system in your house, like all the water before it even gets to the faucet, it's
Absolutely, every city has a filtration system. Oh, you mean a special one, not just the cities?
yeah.
So I was
But if it's every water that enters your house is filtered,
a sample of the crap every day.
is that borer?
I send it to a lab. They have to do.
That's an interesting question.
Like
Is there borer after borer?
the toilet water, and they send it to a lab every.
It's an interesting question. I don't know, we're gonna have to leave that for next time.
But he was
I mean,
telling me the
for-
other guy, he says it's even
Simon
purer
Shinya
than
tests.
anything you can buy in the
Because even on most kitchen faucets, there's like a little grate.
ocean.
Yeah,
It's
that's
super
true.
Purified water every day.
I'm sorry?
And
No? Okay.
Filtration system.
All right, my friends, how does ice come into Simon Shin Yud Ches when we talk about cooking? The answer is because here we are going to be talking about liquefying fats. Shuman, not shemen. Shemen is oil, shuman is fat. So if you want to liquefy fat, so according to the Rishonim who held you're allowed to take ice and put it in the sun, you're also allowed to take liquefied fat, let's say congealed fat from soup or from chicken, gravy, whatever, take it out of the fridge and put it, near the fire, not on top of it,
What do you do
like
with
all the halachas of Shahiyah and Chazar, I'm saying far enough away that there's no issue of stoking, whatever. And there's also no issue of cooking because it's not going to get the outside, let us buy, but it's going to melt. So according to the Rishonim that say you can do it, according to the Rishonim that say you can do it with ice, they say you can do it with fat. But according to the Rishonim that say for Truma specifically, it says you cannot do it with ice. He would say you cannot do it with fat either. Because when you take the fat, which is a solid, and you liquefy it, that's like creating something new.
Or you just take it out to the room temperature and then it melts to room temperature.
Same thing. According to Rav Farkash, it should be okay. Exactly. It's only an issue if you put it near fire or somewhere hotter than the usual room temperature.
So what I'm saying, that's the pshat of the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he points out to all the languages. It's not really him, it's really Rav Wosner. It's quoting Rav Wosner. Rav Wosner points out that all the languages of this problem all mention opposite of fire or opposite this or that. They never say. They never say, but you have to remember they didn't have freezers in those days. So if it was frozen, it's because the whole country is frozen. You know what I mean? How else do you get frozen water? It's because it's freezing in the winter. So how do you melt it? Obviously, you put it in a warm place. You understand? So it's not a total truth because that was just the situation.
They did used to have ice
You have fun
in summer as well.
situation. It's not so clear. I'm sorry, Yossi?
They did used to have ice in the summer as well. They used to dig large pits or large tunnels and fill it with ice, and then they would serve that during the summer.
Right. I hear that.
And I think in the Middle East, even the Middle Ages, they also had ice.
Interesting.
And in Italy as well. In Europe, they had. You could bring it down from the mountains.
Interesting.
Actually, saw some old ice tunnels where people used to keep ice in very old manor houses.
Interesting.
And there was an ice works on a mountain in France where they'd cater for the demand of the summer tourists.
Interesting. Okay, I hear you, although I haven't seen it in the post discussed in this situation, but I hear you. Yes.
Mentioning that they had ice houses years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the winter they would cut the ice, put it in big blocks with sawdust. And what do you call it? There's I don't know what do you call it?
Insulation or something.
Insulation.
Right.
And you had it all summer.
Right.
I remember even as a kid, which was
Right.
an old guy, but they used to bring the people had ice boxes,
Right.
and they used to bring the guy would come around with his truck or wagon or whatever it was, and they'd have blocks of ice,
Right.
and they put it in the top of the bottom would stay cold.
Right.
That's the middle, be 95 degrees outside.
I hear you. I hear you. Okay. With no further ado, 16 in the Mechaber. Mutter liten in panada keneged eish. The makam shayad zeleres. You are allowed to put an empanada, otherwise known as a meat pie, opposite the fire in a place that's yad zeleres. Remember, the meat pie is cooked, baked, whatever you call it. It's done. There is no bishul after bishul. It's dry. Yad zeleres is no issue because there's no bishul here. Here's the chiddush. Yafal pi shashuman sheba shenikrash choyzer v'nimayach. Even though the fat that is inside of it is going to liquefy. So we're talking about a meat pie with fatty meat in it. There's congealed fat in that meat pie. When you put it opposite the fire, it's going to liquefy. Definitely, you know that. It's okay, it's no problem. This is going like the Rishonim that say that it's no problem as long as you don't do it with your hands. Kabbalah says the Ramah. According to this opinion, right, the Rishonim that hold that there's no problem you don't do it with your hands, how much more so you can take a soup out of the fridge and heat it up, obviously less than Yatzaledesberg, it's liquid, even though the fat that congeals on the top, the top of the chicken soup in the fridge, you get these pieces of, chicken fat. Some people like it. Anyway, when you put it in a warm place, again, not just what I say, put it in a warm place, that's going to liquefy. So if you say it's mutter even to take a meat pie out when the liquid is going to be totally distinct, how much more so on a soup where the liquid is just going to be floating on top. It's never going to be a totally new thing, right? Because there's already liquid there, it's just going to be floating on top. How much more so it's permissible. This is all according to the Rishonim that permitted when you don't do it with your hands. However, v'yesh machmirin, some are strict, both in the case of the soup and in the case of the meat pie. That's a sefer truma. Nagu lahachmir. However, the minhag is to be strict. Miyu b'makom tzorich yesh nismech asvar shoyna. In a case of need, you can rely on the first opinion, which means that the Ramah is saying that the chumrah, like the sefer truma, is only a minhag, and therefore, if it's necessary for some reason, guess or whatever, you can even do it lechatchila.
We're talking about specifically warming it here, though. But if I were to just put it on a counter at room temperature, it would not be a problem.
According to Afarkash, it would not be a problem. That's correct.
And
Which is, by the way, I just want to point out, this is a very common thing on Shabbos morning if you want to serve cold chicken. You cook your chicken before Shabbos. You take it out of the fridge on Shabbos morning. You don't want it to be cold. You want it to be room temperature. The gravy is going to liquefy, not near the fire or anything. That's just the way it is. Yossi, go ahead.
You're allowed to put the meat pie into a place which is Yad Soledes by.
Right, as long as it's not on the fire or too close to the fire that you might forget and stoke it, like everything we learned before. It's a little bit far from the and it doesn't look like cooking because it's not directly on it and all of that. The only issue is that it's liquefying.
But what if the meat pie heats up to Yad Soledes by?
It's already been cooked. Ein bishul achar bishul.
So we've said that by definition in this case there is liquid involved.
No, it's becoming liquid. This is,
and then when it becomes liquid, it's a problem.
That's according to the Mordechai, not according to most Rishonim. This is not correct according to the Mordechai. That is. It's a good thing you pointed that out. This psak is following the opinions of the Rishonim that if something is solid now, even if it's going to become liquid, it's okay to reheat it.
Is that the main halacha?
That is the main halacha. The Alter Rebbe, and that's how the Alter Rebbe Paskins in the Shulchan Aruch. And that's the Mishnah Berurah Paskins, in fact, and the Rabbi Yosef, and so on. However, the Alter Rebbe in the Siddur says that we should be machmir like the Mordechai, who says that we should consider it a liquid if it's going to become a liquid too. And according to that, you're right, there's another problem here of actual cooking.
So main halacha not a problem. Alter Rebbe advises against it.
Exactly. And interestingly, the Lavush does too, by the way. Just a noteworthy point. All right. What shall I share with you in these 3 minutes that we have to go? Yes.
According to is that the Ashkenazi?
Yeah.
Nowadays?
Yes.
So they wouldn't take out ice as long as it doesn't melt?
Again, if you just take it out and it's room temperature, there's reason to be makel. But yeah.
Not putting it in a place.
Let's put it this way. Room temperature, some are makel, some are machmer, but definitely the minhag is to take, people definitely take out ice and put it on the table for people to take, because it's not their main intention to create the water and so on.
So using it for if someone's ice on the body. Is that allowed?
Somebody hurt themselves and you want to give them ice to put it on their body.
Yeah, but you can put it in a Ziploc. You don't just put it directly in the wound, do you?
That's his question. Put it in a Ziploc.
Put a little bit of water and then it melts. It's in the water. There you go.
Okay, let's say put it in a
Wet the paper towel first. Couldn't you wet it first? You want it to dissipate into water already, so you just wet the paper towel.
Again, according to those that say room temperature is okay, it's okay. According to those that say it's not okay, it's still not your intention Your intention is not to melt it.
Right, so what if you said we accepted it as the law? You think
I do plead the fifth, but I definitely know that people do it. I feel uncomfortable to give up sack based on what people do, but people definitely do it.
is that a factor in the I asked her recently about people who are when, if, let's say, for example, if someone asks this question on salad, salad dressing in salad dressing, or let's say olive oil in salad. So.
But you eat it with a fork.
Right, so seemingly according to Spartan, it didn't make a difference.
Why? Why?
Yeah, which I think is
Really?
right. I saw also everybody.
It's interesting to look at the extension of your
Still watching it. Even so, he said that it's just minimal. No one does it. The rabbi said just no one does it. He said, you see anybody washing their hands before they do any of the health that we just mentioned? So he says,
Tibuli b'mashka, there are people who do. Salad, no. But tibuli b'mashka, there are people who do.
right, so what's the goal?
I mean, the difference with pashtus is that you're not touching it. That's the difference.
A lot of cases.
What do you mean?
A lot of cases it could be they don't touch it.
No, but something that you normally touch is exer that you may touch. But salad, civilized people don't normally touch.
Right, I love that. And peppers, salad.
Okay, that's a shayla. That's a shayla.
No, so what my point was that he told me, I asked him if he does it. I don't know if it was nice, but I said, do you do it? He said, no, people don't do it. So when he said that, it just went into my head, like, well, how much power? I wanted to find out the clarification, how much power people have, of what people do wrong, so and then I told him I do it. Should I just stop, or I'd rather not do it? I don't have any specific, reason other than what the office says. So he says, no, it's very good. If you do it, do it. You do it, it's a very good thing to do. He says,
It's a difficult cloud to make. Difficult cloud. Very difficult. Because sometimes people do things just because they don't know.
it seems like that.
I was at the Koisel during the summer, and somebody noticed that I had a ripped shirt. He said, "Why are you wearing a ripped shirt?" I said, "Well, I just came to the Koisel and I ripped my shirt." He said, "That's not Min Chabad." I said, "What? It's not Min Chabad? I mean, it's a Gemara, and it's a Shulchan Aruch, and the Friediger Rebbe did it. And what do you mean it's not Min Chabad?" I mean, I just never heard of such a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think there's any such minhag. I think it's people just have Rahmanas on their shirts.
No, or a lot of people don't understand exactly what to do. Or
Whatever. Exactly. I don't think that's a real minhag.
What do you?
Exactly.
Is what you're sad?
That's what it says. You're supposed to be sad.
It
Absolutely.
seems like, I spoke to.
We're not sad about the Koisel. We're sad about what's supposed to be
But that's for someone
on the other side of the Koisel.
that doesn't go every day. I mean,
No, yeah, every 30 days. More than 30 days or more. Oh, actually, more than 30 days. Okay, Rabbi Sai, we have a lot more to learn about this, but we'll have to continue tomorrow. Mitzvah Hashem.
Quick question. I don't actually understand what's the problem with melting ice. What's the actual problem? The malacha.
If you go back to minute number 97 in this shir, you'll hear it. No, I'm just kidding. It's either creating or it's similar to squeezing fruit.
Okay.
All right, we'll get more to it tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Yes, have a good night.